Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge. Smash a like, subscribe. We're here to talk about Felix Nmecha of Borussia Dortmund. Lots of excitement online today as Patrick Berger and Plettigol, both German journalists, linking Manchester United to Felix Nmecha of Borussia Dortmund. Like I say, we'll get into him and why Man United be looking at him. There are some controversies around this player, you know, rumoured to have clauses in his contract about past social media activity. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and apparently that was part of Dortmund signing him from Wolfsburg. But question for you before I delve into what this player is and what he could mean for Manchester United. I don't think there is any doubt that we do need to bring a midfielder in this summer. Give me a realistic name. Get in the comments, realistic name, why and value, because I think that's the interesting thing. I mentioned this on the morning show. I like Ederson at Atalanta. That there are other midfielders out there, but the price tag is what it's all about. And Dortmund want 50 million euros, 40 million quid for him. They're a bit worried about not being in the Champions League. They're not doing well in the Bundesliga. Is this the sort of player that Manchester United should be signing? A lot of people, like I say, quite excited about it. I was looking at him actually. I do know about him. I remember. God, we've been doing this for 10 years now. Talking about 10 years, by the way, didn't quite get 5,000 likes on the video this morning. So if you haven't liked the video from this morning, 5,000 likes will release the Dublin show for everybody to watch, but not hit that yet. But yeah, I think that he's certainly a player that we have been linked to in the past. And I think it's hard to look, he's 6'3", he's 24. He's currently injured, actually. I think he's got knee ligament injury. He's not played since January. So there's a few things there. But I was looking at what he's all about in relation to what he's good at. And defensive duels won in the Bundesliga this year. He's third. So very energetic. Obviously playing for Dortmund. He's very used to passing and, being part of the creative. That's what Dortmund are obviously all about. But certainly high energy, certainly physical, and certainly somebody that's going to bring a lot of intensity to Manchester United, but also the ability to be good on the ball, which I think when you look at the pivot of Ruben Amorim, we've got to look at that. That's what we're looking to bring somebody in here for. I think when you look at the pivot at Manchester United, then this is the sort of player that you probably do want. You know, you look at Gravenberch at Liverpool, Alexis McAllister at Liverpool, you look at Declan Rice, there are a lot of players like this in the Premier League, Casido at Chelsea, players that are capable on the ball, but high octane, box to box, energy, efficient at winning the ball back, utilising the ball, taking the ball in tight spaces, off your back four, off your defenders. That's what the double pivot is in an Amorim system, and it's probably the area that doesn't get enough focus because we play with three centre-backs. There's a lot of talk about that. The wide players, the wing-backs, the wide players, whatever you want to call them, there's a lot of talk about that. The striker, because when they need them to be scoring goals, the two in behind is so important, and they're not really wingers. There's not that much focus on the pivot, and obviously we've seen Bruno and Agate playing there, but we need more than that. Maybe Collier can develop, I'm confident about that. Maybe Mainu can develop, I'm confident about that. But I think somebody who's like 6'3", and an absolute pivot midfielder, essential. I don't see that sort of physicality, that sort of energy in a lot of our players. As I said, I think Collier could do it, but I get why Manchester United would be looking at this player. There has to be more options though, which is why I posed the question, where would you look? I think the price tag of about £40 million with Dortmund, who, as I said, are struggling a little bit in their domestic league and may not be in the Champions League next year. That's obviously going to cause a shortfall for them. They have always been traditionally a selling club as well. But the way I would pitch this is that obviously exciting. Obviously a lot of people talking about him online today, but may not be the player that we end up with if we're being honest. But it's exciting that we're looking at midfielders, and that's the sort of profile of midfielder I think we need to look at. It's a very specialist position. It's a very important position. You are there to be the engine room of this team. And like the core of the sun, without it, the sun will die. And I think that whether it ends up being Felix Nmecha or somebody else, or an Ederson or whatever, it will obviously come down to price tag, but we have to do something because Casemiro will need to be moved on. Now, the controversy around Nmecha sort of goes back to, and I'm reading an article here from BVB Buzz. Nmecha could face hefty fine if he violates Borussia Dortmund's code of values. Now, 442 actually wrote an article about this a day or so ago, and basically saying that there was a bit of controversy when he left Wolfsburg because of a couple of social media posts he made. One in particular, I think, was to do with pride, and some deemed it as being homophobic. Hence, Dortmund apparently put in, I think, £1 million or something like Instagram fine or something like that if he does that. And there was a bit of controversy around Dortmund. Now, the only reason I would mention that is it's news to me. I don't remember that at all. But I do remember when we tried to sign Arnautovic, and obviously we've had the stuff with Mason Greenwood as well. Let's not pretend that Manchester United and the media around Manchester United aren't interested in looking at things like that. The reality is, obviously, he's been at Dortmund for a couple of years, and I've never heard anything about this. So, obviously, he's played for Dortmund as well. So, I don't think it's necessarily a blocker to a signing, but just be wary that might rear its head at some point if we do develop into signing him, as we saw with Arnautovic. Look, I bring it in because it's a player that we've been linked to, and it's something I hadn't heard before. But obviously, these posts go back a few years. And I think the player himself said they were taken out of context. But you can guarantee that would be brought up by the media if Manchester United did move. I don't think it would stop a deal, by the way. I'm just saying, it might be something just to be aware of when it happens, if it happens. But yeah, I think we need to bring a midfielder in. I think it's a really important position. Alternatives to that, look, you're either looking at some sort of young player again that Favel's found or Wilcox has found. But the interesting thing with Felix Nmecha is that Jason Wilcox worked with him at Manchester City. So I think that's another sort of addition to this story. Yes, it's coming in from Plettigol and Patrick Berger out in Germany, but Jason Wilcox plays an important role at Manchester United, and that may well be, a connection in there as well. So let us know what your thoughts are. Is this the sort of signing Man United should be looking at? At the end of the day, if you can do a deal where no one else is looking at him and the injury isn't going to be a long-term issue, 24, that height, that energy, good on the ball, Manchester United, I think these are the sort of players that we should be looking at. 24 years of age with some experience. As I said, the experience in the team doesn't have to be 30. 24 is experienced if you've played in the Champions League, played in the Bundesliga. So look, I look at what Gravenberch did going from Bayern to Liverpool, where he was perceived to be a flop at Bayern. So I think midfielders in the Bundesliga can do well over here. Let's see what it develops. You've got the Wilcox connection as well. But give me your comments. Any other thoughts on other midfielders, and what's your thoughts on this one? Get your comments in. Smash a like on the video. I'll speak to you on the next one. We're back at 8 o'clock live tonight.